On January 12, 2010, at just about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a 7.0 earthquake rolled across the island of Haiti. In the space of about 30 seconds, life was turned upside down. They estimate that 40 to 50% of the buildings in Port-au-Prince, the capital city, were flattened like pancakes or just simply toppled over. The Salvation Army's response to the earthquake was immediate. Our emergency mechanism kicked in right away as officers and soldiers on the ground began to minister to their family and friends and neighbors around them, even though they themselves were still reeling from the shock of everything that had happened. Within just a few hours, an emergency team was put together and began to make its way to Port-au-Prince. The first task is to help people to survive. The second goal is to help them to thrive. In those kinds of circumstances, what do people need to survive? Well, first of all, they need food and water and medical care. And then they need sanitation and shelter. As the aftershocks rolled across the island, people fled from anything that was still standing. Makeshift shelters were set up in any space that was open. Some people left the city immediately to go back to their villages and their small towns where they had family members that they could stay with. Others simply sat down in the rubble. It was all that they could do. Some 20,000 people of over 3,000 families made their way to a place in Delma 2, which is an area of Port-au-Prince, where there was a big open soccer field in a market square. That location sits right next door to the Salvation Army property, where we have a divisional headquarters and a corps and a clinic and a children's home. And it was there that they made their home. The Salvation Army, in this case, for the very first time, became camp managers for this impromptu settlement of people. Within just a few days of the earthquake, it was possible for the Salvation Army to arrange for food and water to come in on cargo planes from the United States. It was really important because there just wasn't enough food and water available on the island, and people needed something to eat. When the planes would land, they were escorted by various military units to keep the goods safe. The airport itself had been damaged in the earthquake, and so it took quite a bit of work to get things operational again. Once our food arrived, it was stored on an end of the airfield until we could come and pick it up. We were really grateful for the services of the 82nd Airborne as they helped us to move the food around and to keep security at all of our distribution points. Water and sanitation are an issue in any emergency situation, but especially when the disaster happens on an island. People need clean water to drink, and they need to be able to use the facilities to take care of business. And so in collaboration with a number of other agencies, the Salvation Army was able to install water systems, treatment facilities, and holding tanks so that the people, especially in our camps and on our compounds, could have the fresh water that they needed. So the emergency team got to work locating some food and some water, and then they began to make a plan for distributing the same. You can't just pull up with a truck and start unloading stuff. It creates this huge panic and people swarm all around, and actually people get hurt. So they organized a plan. First, they distributed some envelopes. They were letterhead envelopes with symbols of the Salvation Army on them. And then they gave out some 3x5 cards for people to write their family names on. And eventually they moved to these plastic cards with barcodes on them that all allowed people to come through the line and to collect up whatever was being distributed that day. Getting the barcode system for tracking people that came for our distributions up and running was a really big deal and really gave me a sense of accomplishment. It took conquering a brand new system, understanding the software that went with it, and then using these handheld scanners to be able to keep the line moving along. The neatest thing about that was just knowing that under this broiling hot tropical sun, people were not going to have to spend as much time in those lines, and it just added a measure of respect to the whole process. It's not easy having to stand in line to wait to be served with food and things that you need just to survive, and so keeping some sense of respect in it was really important to us. On the Salvation Army's compound in Delma 2, the clinic went from helping some few dozen people every day to hundreds and hundreds of people every day. They were dealing with simple things like passing out aspirins and painkillers, all the way up to dealing with minor surgeries. And in fact, they even delivered a dozen babies in the first few weeks. Day-to-day life in Haiti has never been easy. Poverty in that country is estimated to be the highest of all of the Western countries. Most people live on $1 a day. Meals are simple. The rice and beans is the mainstay, and very often there's only one meal a day. Children are expected to be in school, and yet most families can't scrape together the money that it takes to pay the school fees. It's not easy living. Haiti reminded me very much of Africa in the spirit of the place, in the spirit of the people. You know, they're very joyful people. They have a lot of life. They're people who enjoy each other's company, who like to sing and like to dance, and they have a real love for people and a love for the Lord. The other thing that really made an impression on me was meeting and working with our Haitian colleagues. They are faithful people. They work in an impossible situation, and yet they do that with joy and with dedication. And it really touched my heart to meet them and to work alongside of them. Salvationists can be very proud of the work that the Salvation Army has accomplished in Haiti in response to this earthquake. It's an amazing thing to see how quickly the Army's been able to respond and to see all that it's been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time. And I consider myself hugely privileged to have been a part of it. I believe that this is a time for Haiti. This is their opportunity. I had a conversation with one of the drivers on the day before I left, and we were talking about everything that had happened and the difficulty of that circumstance and the things that were unexpected. But he said, you know, I believe that God has something better for Haiti, and so I believe that too. I pray God's richest blessing on Haiti, on its people, on the Salvationists and friends who are ministering there in the Lord's name. May He bless them abundantly, use them to minister well, and in all things, may His will be done.